This is the most feared empire in the ancient world. Its kings are legendary for their godlike power and cruelty, and its brutality is so extreme it makes the Mongols look like Boy Scouts. This is Assyria. The year is 1400 BCE. In the ancient Near East, nestled between the fertile lands of the upper Tigris River in Mesopotamia, there existed a small but ambitious kingdom. Its kings dreamed of empire, but first they had to survive. To the south was the powerful Babylonian Empire, and to the east, the mysterious kingdom of Mitanni. But Assyria's greatest threat was its mountainous terrain, which made farming difficult and left its people vulnerable to attack. Yet from this inhospitable land came one of the most powerful empires in history. How did a small kingdom in a barren, isolated region rise to become the most feared empire in the ancient world? Let's find out. In the late Bronze Age, Assyria was a small kingdom in northern Mesopotamia ruled by local lords. For centuries, they struggled to maintain their independence against the mighty Egyptians, Hyksos, and Babylonians. But by the 14th century BCE, the tide began to turn. Under the kings of the 13th and 12th centuries BCE, the Assyrians grew from a collection of city-states into a formidable military power. They fielded the first iron weapons in the region, enabling them to win victories over their neighbors. By 1075 BCE, they were masters of siege warfare, employing battering rams and innovative pulley systems to haul down the walls of their enemies' cities. Their armies were also highly disciplined, marching in perfect formation and carrying shields emblazoned with the Assyrian royal bull. Most terrifying of all were the 2,500 chariots that thundered across the battlefield, pulled by speedy Arabian horses. These chariots revolutionized warfare in the Near East and enabled the Assyrians to conquer vast territories. Within a century, the Assyrians became the undisputed masters of northern Mesopotamia. But their victories were not won with military prowess alone. More often than not, the Assyrians crushed their enemies through terror. Their tactics were simple and effective. Once a city fell under their control, the Assyrian soldiers would impale its inhabitants on stakes. Then they would flay the survivors, selling the women and children into slavery and deporting the men to distant cities to break their spirit of resistance. Some prisoners were forced to watch as their friends and family were crucified before their eyes, while others were thrown into pits with poisonous snakes. Even the vanquished kings were not spared. The Assyrian king would cut off their limbs and gouge out their eyes to humiliate them in front of their troops. The goal was to create an atmosphere of fear and revulsion so that the very sight of an Assyrian soldier would send their enemies fleeing in terror. And it worked. None in the ancient world were more hated and feared than the Assyrians. However, it was the Assyrians' good fortune to have a long line of powerful kings who used their godlike powers for good. Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, and Ashurbanipal were absolute rulers of their empire, but they also acted as divine agents on earth. Every morning, the kings would sacrifice a bull to the gods and receive their divine mandate to rule. They then set out to fulfill their sacred duty to expand the empire. Under their rule, Assyria reached its greatest extent. It stretched from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea and encompassed the entire Fertile Crescent. To maintain control over such a vast territory, the Assyrians developed a sophisticated system of administration. They divided their empire into provinces, each governed by a royal appointee. The provinces were responsible for collecting taxes and sending tribute to the king. And to facilitate trade and communication, the Assyrians built hundreds of miles of roads. One of the greatest cultural achievements of the Assyrian Empire was the Library of Ashurbanipal, which contained thousands of clay tablets with writings from all over the known world. It was truly a wonder of the ancient world and a testament to the Assyrian king's love of knowledge. Unfortunately, much of the library was destroyed when the empire fell. After centuries of constant warfare and expansion, the Assyrian Empire began to suffer from overextension. By the 7th century BCE, several provinces revolted against the central authority, plunging the empire into chaos. In 626 BCE, the Medes, a nomadic tribe from the mountains of Media, invaded Assyria and captured the capital of Nineveh. 3 years later, the Babylonians, led by the great king Nebuchadnezzar II, also invaded and sacked Nineveh. Thus ended the Assyrian Empire, one of the most brutal and efficient empires in ancient history. But despite their short reign, the Assyrians left a lasting legacy. Their military innovations and administrative reforms inspired later empires, and their cruelty served as a warning to future generations. The Assyrians may have been the first evil empire, but they certainly weren't the last. Subscribe to Legends of War for more forgotten civilizations and epic history.